So I got a lightweight battery here for my race car, and as you can see, it's obviously pretty light. I'm handling it with one hand here, so not too bad at all. It says it's 6 pounds, so it's not the lightest out there, but it's a significant improvement. And as you can see here, it comes with this little cap protector for the positive terminal and no cap for the negative, but it's not really necessary. We'll just take that off. And looking here, this one's configurable, so I can take the terminal here and relocate it to the front if I need to. So that's a convenient feature if it's needed, and I can also hook accessories up to these posts. It also comes with these supports here, so they're a little, it's kind of like Legos in a sense. So you can see it has the little posts there, and then it has the little receptacles. So this is meant to just hold the battery in place. So we'll be using those to secure it to the car. So putting the two together, you can just tell how small this thing really is. It's minuscule in comparison to the stock battery. And this is just a little Civic battery too, so it's small in terms of as far as batteries go already. So I'll just compare the specs real quick. And then the new battery. All right, so I got the scale out just to see what we're dealing with here. So the new battery, again being careful not to touch the terminals together. New battery is 7 pounds and 7.6 ounces. So it's pretty hefty for a 6-pound battery. But let's see what the old battery is here. See if I can even pick it up with one hand. Nope. All right, so I got the old battery on here now. And this old battery is 26 pounds, 12 ounces. So even though the new battery says it's 6 pounds, but it's really a little over 7, I'm still getting about 19 pounds of benefit by switching to the smaller battery. So that's kind of significant as far as weight savings go in terms of old Civics. I mean, the car only weighs 2,000 pounds, so that's a % of weight just in this battery here. It's actually a fairly easy project as far as they go. So this one just need a couple of wrenches and a set of needle nose just in case. Some cars might require a screwdriver or different types of wrenches, possibly star wrenches or bits. Just depending on your car, you'll have to look it up a little bit and just see what you have. So here we have the stock battery in the engine bay, and you can see it has just convenient little cubby for itself, but not much protecting around it. I've got a race in the morning, so I want to get this installed, and hopefully it'll give me a competitive advantage. So let's get our wrenches in here and start taking this battery out. So whenever you're working with batteries like this, it's a good idea to get some gloves on. Reason being that you can see this one has just a little bit of corrosion, but it's pretty clean. And usually when working with batteries, it's a good idea to have safety glasses too. So my battery is pretty simple. It just has these 2 nuts on here. So you just have to loosen those and remove the terminals. But what's really important when working with electrical is always make sure to disconnect the negative first. And the reason why we disconnect the negative first is anything metallic in the engine bay now has a reference to the positive 12 volts whenever the negative's connected. So if I were trying to loosen this and I bumped into a metal part, I'd cause basically a short circuit where I've got 12 volts now flowing through my wrench. So that becomes a little bit dangerous. I've done it before and sparks fly, it gets a little scary. And just make sure you remember which way is which. Okay, so I got it loosened. But these terminals, they're made of a soft alloy, so they don't really want to let go right away. This one isn't too bad, but I'm just going to use my needle nose, I can never say that right, to just loosen this up a little bit. Just like that. So now I'm safe because my negative is disconnected, so it has no reference to the positive terminal. So if I were to take my wrench on this and hit the chassis, nothing happens. Now I'm just going to take this one off real quick. This terminal is a little bit damaged. It's got a crack here. So it's been holding so far, but I should probably replace this terminal at some point. It's the safer option to do so. Just keep loosening this up. Really like these wrenches, by the way. The ratcheting wrenches, really handy. Okay, so this one won't be as hard to separate just because it's not connected to anything, but let's look at the wrench in there. It should lift right off now. So the next step, so I've got this thumb nut here. I think that's what it's called, wing nut. I've got this wing nut here that I need to loosen because that's holding the battery down. And normally there's one over here. Apparently it decided to just call it quits and disappear. So that happens every once in a while with these cars. Always unpredictable. All right, so we'll just take that out now. So I'm clear to lift it out. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do that now. And one thing when handling the battery, be really careful. I've got this in my hands, so I should probably set this down. But if you're carrying the battery or handling it, you don't want to put anything metallic between the two because again, it's going to spark and cause some excitement. So I've got the battery sitting here in the engine compartment now, just kind of see how it fits. I don't have it connected yet, or I don't have it tied down either. But you can just tell this thing's tiny compared to the old battery. Before it took up the whole space, but now this one just kind of sits in there and it's almost kind of a joke how small it is. So let's go get those connectors in. So let's go get the spacer. Let's go get the clamp and put it in here and secure the battery, and then we'll get it connected and see how it goes. Okay, so I got the clamps here now, and I have to basically just assemble them like so. And I think you can see it says universal here. I think they just make these types of clamps so they can go with different size batteries for the Braille system or the Braille products. So the question is, do I assemble it kind of like this and try to get it to go across the length? Or do I put it in its smallest setting and go across the width? That I'm not sure about, so let's take a look. So I've got it in the shortest setting now, and I'm just kind of lowering it down. And already I can tell this isn't going to cut it. It's way too long in its shortest setting to really fit over it. So you can tell I have these two slots here. I'm going to use these as pointers now. So I've got the slots where the original battery was meant to connect. And so going lengthwise, I'm going to see if it makes sense to tie into those. Or maybe do I tie into that one there and then secure it to the side, see how it goes and see what makes sense. Oh, another important thing, I've done this before, is make sure you have it aligned correctly. So I've got the positive down here and negative up here, and that's not correct because the positive terminal's up here. Switch this around like so. Alright, so just kind of test fit. I'm going to separate this. It's a little interesting. So you kind of start off like this, get it lined up, and the idea is to get those pegs lined up with the holes on the bottom side, and then it's going to press, kind of lock it into position. Okay, so I've got it lengthened here a little bit, not all the way, but I want to just try to lower it down in here and give it a test fit, see what it looks like. So let's get it located in the top here. So you can see I hooked it into there, and then bring that around, see what it looks like. So already I can tell I need to lengthen this up a little bit because it's overlapping there. Do one of those, a little bit hard one-handed. So let's tighten this down up here to lock it into position, and then we'll push the battery up to this post, and then we'll locate this one based off of it. So I just pushed up against the frame here. You can tell there's a little nook or a little edge for the battery to sit against. I just pushed up there. I don't really like the idea of putting it in here because if it were to ever bump, it could just pull out. So I think what I'm going to do is we're going to see if I can catch this edge over here. Okay, that's the struggle bus moment. So the problem I'm having with it now is with this hook at an angle like this to get down into that hole, the whole plastic bracket is basically dragged on top of the terminals, which I'm actually kind of liking the way this looks. But the difficulty is I won't be able to get my terminal on here, as I can kind of demonstrate. There's really no way to get that on there. So I'm going to have to go back to the drawing board and get this bracket moved to this side so I can still get my terminals on there. So I lengthened up the bracket here, and I got it into the second slot down here. So even though it's not braced up against the battery, I'm going to tighten it down and see how that feels. So the thing to watch for when tightening these wing nuts is just given this design, this plastic bracket is caught on the threads here, so it's being stubborn and it's not allowing it to slide over the threads. And so when I'm tightening the wing nut, I'm getting a lot of resistance, like it's tight, even though I know it's not cross-threaded. But you can see it's still completely loose, so it isn't actually getting tight, it's just fighting this plastic bracket here. You gotta just bias that bracket over by just kind of applying tension as I'm tightening these. I'm just working this one down, see if I can get it tight. So the battery is somewhat secure. I need to get this other one to cooperate now. So I'm just going to loosen it up, see if I can get whatever's binding here. My problem is this washer really doesn't want to fit down into the hole. So what I'm doing now is I'm just kind of picking this up with my fingers and tightening it, and that's kind of keeping everything aligned over here. And I'm watching the slot down there just to make sure that my hook is still positioned, that it doesn't come out as I'm tightening everything. So now it's getting stiff and hard to turn, but it's not really in position either. I think what it's trying to do is, because this slot is at a slight angle, I think it's trying to drag the bracket along. And what they do in autocross is they'll come around and they'll shake the battery to make sure it's tight. So this wouldn't pass right now, so I need to keep tightening it down until it does pass. But the reason for that is just, and it's good for the street too, but as you're driving along and you're cornering, you don't want your battery to be rocking around, because then it could short into something or come loose. Or with such a small battery too, since it isn't held in here as tightly as the old battery was, it could become completely loose and then jostle its way out and cause damage. But now I've got it tightened down. That seems really secure. I don't think that's going to go anywhere. So that's just what I'm looking for. So now it's time to just get my terminal connected again. So it's going to fit in here a little funny because it doesn't fit the same as the original. So this wire is going to have some resistance getting on here. Just have to get it located a little, like so. What's nice is this battery has these brass fittings here that help bite into the wire, so it'll make a really good connection once it's tightened down. So I'm having some difficulties here, so I just had to pre-bend this a little bit so that way when I tighten it, it actually snugs that up and gets tight. So now I just need to find my wrench again. Oh, there's a moth. So I'll get this hand tight about to there first. Just come in here, hold that in place while I tighten up. I think it's working. I'm getting resistance, so that's a plus. So now the brass post itself is loose. Looks like you can use Allen wrenches to tighten these up here. So this is a 5mm Allen wrench I've got here. Just going to use that to tighten up this brass terminal, so that way it's not spinning about like it was. Get that nice and tight, and now it's really solid. So I like the way that feels now. It's not going anywhere. Okay, so now I'm just going to get my negative terminal. This one won't be nearly as complicated. You did make a short somewhere. Just watch out, because when you go to connect this, you're going to get sparks. But here I'm safe. So first things first, I'm just going to loosen that up. See if I can spread that connector a little bit so it fits over a little bit better. That's one thing about these terminals on this battery, is they run a little bit larger than the stock ones. And it's kind of a universal thing. They're tapered, so you can get whatever connector you have over it. But this doesn't want to go down over the terminal because it's too small. So I need to try to spread this more. It just seems to be pretty stuck onto that bolt in there. There we go. Got to just spread a little bit there finally. It's still pretty tight. See if I can chase it with this needle nose here and get it to separate a little bit more. Okay, so I got it to fit over the top. So I'll loosen this up a little bit more, see if I can just get it to fit just a little bit better. That's looking a lot better now. So just get that rotated in position so I can get my wrench on it. I'm gonna swing these wires over like that. And you don't have to worry about this one touching anything metal, so if it's close to anything, that's fine, because this wire basically goes to the chassis, so that's what grounds everything out. So no worries there. Hand tighten this one again. Just start working it with the wrench. And this one needs to be tightened down with the Allen wrench too, so I'll just hit that real quick. All right, that's looking pretty good. So I'm just gonna test the battery again real quick. And that's not going anywhere, so that's perfect. All right, so let's go around and see if we can get it to start. One thing is just check around the engine bay and make sure that you got all of your parts and tools out. So I just need to pull this out real quick. All right, so got my key put in here. So far it's looking good. Let's give it a crank and see if it goes. Excellent. All right, so there we go. We have a successful lightweight battery installation. So I came back from racing and I've already tightened it up, so it's in there pretty solidly. But it did loosen up just a little bit. So I think this plastic, just when it heated up, kind of flexed a little bit. So I just came back in here, tightened the threads just a little bit more. Just get some extra tension in here, and now it's solid again. So just kind of check on it and tighten them up a little bit more if you need to once the plastic flexes. And so here we see it worked really well at racing and gave me just that little bit of edge, although the other racer wasn't there, so I just won by default. But if you found the video helpful, be sure to like and subscribe for more content like this. And if you have any ideas of what I could have done differently, then leave a comment below. Thanks for watching, and catch you next time.